Buddy boy. Hey, buddy boy. Hey, buddy boy. Hi. Hi, good boy. He's a good boy. Hey guys, it's Michaela back again with another video, and I am attempting something very different this time in two different ways. One, I am having to film this one-handed because I don't have anything upon which to rest my phone. And two, you may notice that I am in a very different location. Instead of the bland white walls of my apartment, I am in someone else's house. I am house sitting and dog sitting for the next couple of days for some friends of mine. These are friends I love very dearly, friends with whom I go to YALLFest every year and from whom I have borrowed like dozens and dozens of books over the years. They are fellow huge readers just like myself. This is Lily, and that big boy is Zeke. They will almost certainly be interrupting us during this, but that's okay, we soldier on. Today I am reviewing a book that, to the surprise of no one, I borrowed from these very friends from a bookcase that is in just the other room over there. And that book is Sadie by Courtney Summers. Before we begin, I want to offer a content warning for this book. Sadie discusses such topics as, and I wrote them down to make sure I didn't forget any, child abuse, sexual abuse, drug use, alcoholism, extreme poverty, child murder, and violence. If any of these is potentially upsetting to you, I totally understand. Please, Zeke is licking my arm. Oh my God. Please take care of yourself first. If later you feel up to it, I would be happy to have you to come back, but take care of yourself first. Zeke. Okay. Okay, well, I mean, it's an option. So as the content warning suggests, this book is quite a doozy. It's told through two different ways, both of which I really, really loved. The first is Sadie telling her own story in the aftermath of her younger sister Maddie's murder. Sadie is 19 and Maddie was 13 when she was murdered. Maddie, it was sort of Sadie's entire life, and Sadie basically raised her because their mother was an absentee mother and they'd have differing fathers. And after Maddie was murdered, Sadie set out to find her murderer, whom she knows who he is, set out to find and kill him. This story is also told from the perspective of Wes McCrae, who is a podcaster out of New York. He has learned about Sadie's disappearance because she didn't tell anybody that she was going to do this. She just disappeared one day. He has learned about his disappearance, he has learned about her disappearance, and is starting a true crime-esque show in order to find her. His portions of the book are, are we done? Are we done? Okay. His portions of the book are written as a podcast transcript, and these are incredibly well done. I could hear the audio as I was reading it. I don't really do audiobooks, but this book in particular would really lend itself well to one. There is a time difference between Sadie's part and Wes McCrae's part. Sadie's part is generally right after Maddie has died, not too long after, and Wes McCrae's is considerably later, like several months. This leads to some super cool, super creative methods of information reveal. Sometimes Sadie would drop a hint about something that wouldn't really get picked up until like a couple months later in the podcast, or sometimes Wes would uncover something that then Sadie would elaborate on in her own chapters. Sadie is by no means an unreliable narrator. I'm so sorry. Okay, hold on. Sadie is by no means an unreliable narrator, but she is very singularly focused on her goal of find this killer and kill him. And so it's actually through Wes McCrae, through this podcast, that we get the fuller, richer, more detailed picture of her life. I love podcasts, like love them. But at first I was really skeptical about this podcast gimmick thing. I just didn't see how it was going to serve the story. I was super duper wrong. It was so great. It gave us as the reader the chance to both hear Sadie's story through her own words, but then also get to know her through the eye of a stranger. Hey bub. Oh, are we starting this now? Ma'am. What are we doing? What are we doing? Courtney Summers really deftly calls out true crime media's inherently exploitative nature while still providing space for these types of stories to be told and for them to have value. That's a really hard line to walk, but I think she does it very well. I am a fan of true crime, particularly true crime podcasts, but sometimes it can feel a bit skeevy or voyeuristic, like we as the audience are delighting in someone else's suffering. And then there's always a question of like, who's profiting off of this? Is it the family of the victims? No, probably not. Those kinds of questions aren't the focus of this book, but it does provide sort of a space to ask those kinds of questions. And I just really appreciated that. She allows for that type of storytelling to be both healing and problematic at the same time, which takes a lot of skill. The writing in this book is just gorgeous. Sadie has to describe some really desolate places and some really horrific events, and each one is done with such grace and beauty, even when it's really hard. Throughout the book, Sadie has to visit a bunch of small Colorado towns, and each one is brought very vividly to life. I'm sorry the camera's all over the place in this one, but I'm holding it up with one arm and I have absolutely no upper body strength to speak of. Oh my god, the characters in this are so amazing, so vividly real. Any single one of them could be just plucked out of the page of this book and brought to life and would be complete and whole. There are a bunch of characters we only get to meet briefly, like maybe in just a couple of scenes, and every single one is extremely well fleshed out and feels like a whole, complete person. I usually find that books are either a little bit lacking in plot or a little bit lacking in character, and this book is absolutely not. Both of them are fully fleshed out. And speaking of plot, this book absolutely keeps you on your toes. I was guessing the entire time, did not know how it was going to end. I don't really want to go into a lot of detail because this roller coaster needs to be experienced, but it just takes you so many places and gets so real. By the end, I was so tense, I was crying. It is, like I said, an experience and one of the wildest plots I've ever read. Okay, these dogs are getting antsy. I've been talking for a while and my arm hurts, so I'm gonna stop here. But I enjoyed the hell out of this book. 5 out of 5 for sure. Please go read it. It came out in 2018, so it's not like the newest book in the world. But go pick it up if you haven't read it. What a stellar piece of literature. I am signing off. Thank you so much for watching. Expect maybe some more content with puppies in the future. Okay, goodbye.